Mom is having a hard time living off her pension. We, who are still able to work, should help her out, shouldn't we?
During the inheritance discussion following the death of their father, Billy, the second son, seriously speaks to the eldest son and his wife, but it seems his words didn't resonate with them at all.
Help out, you say? Just because she only has her pension doesn't mean we can just hand over our money.
Exactly. Or perhaps does our mother-in-law plan to just dip into our money? Suddenly, the eldest son and his wife look at me with faces like they've bitten into a bitter bug. It wasn't a look one should give to their parents.
Stop trying to leech off us. It's a nuisance.
The pensioner should just keep to herself except for weddings and funerals. Stay out of our business.
Hey, that's enough.
Billy chides them, but I was looking down, clenching my fists. Not only did they wish for the death of my husband, but they also complained about the inheritance and then called me a parasite. I must have raised him wrong. I can't stand it anymore. Yet, I told the eldest son and his wife very calmly, I understand what you're saying. Let's sever our ties. My name is Catherine. I will be turning 65 this year. I am currently living with my husband, who is retired. He is a kind and considerate person, and we have supported each other for a long time. We were blessed with 2 children, our eldest son Dan and our second son Billy. Both of them are now married. Recently, our house has been showing its age, so we were planning to renovate. We thought it would be nice if we could live with our eldest son and his wife, Dan and Rebecca, once the renovations are done. So I contacted Dan. Dan, we're planning to renovate soon. Would you consider moving in with us? When I say this over the phone, Dan clearly showed his reluctance.
Living together, can you spare me? Rebecca will not like it either.
But if we're going to renovate, I want to prepare a room for you guys too.
That's your convenience, right? If you have so much money that you can afford to renovate, then you can give us some of that money. I'll take it.
From the phone, I could even hear Rebecca, Dan's wife, saying, Living together is seriously impossible. I see. Let's forget about this conversation. The eldest son and his wife are always like this. For some reason, they always act superior and display a cold attitude towards us. After I hung up the phone, I conveyed Dan and the others' feelings to my husband just as they were. My husband showed a somewhat lonely expression, but spoke up cheerfully.
Can't be helped. For our old age, let's just make the renovations for accessibility so we can live by ourselves.
Following that, our home was remodeled as we wished and reborn as a house with barrier-free design. Several months after the renovation was completed, we were scheduled to have a meal with both our eldest son and his wife, and our second son and his wife. First to arrive was our second son, Billy, and his wife, Anne. Anne is a thoughtful person. As soon as she handed me a hostess gift, she came to the kitchen to help me. Mother-in-law, you are always so good at cooking. Oh, thank you. I'm grateful for your help, Anne. As we were chatting, the eldest son and his wife arrived. Upon their arrival, they sat heavily on the sofa and demanded that tea be brought to them. Seeing me preparing it, Rebecca and Dan spoke in an irritated manner. Really, they have no consideration.
Exactly. We are guests here. Hurry up.
As I was about to place the tea in front of them silently, Billy approached Dan from the side.
Dan, can't you do at least that much by yourself? You shut up.
At Dan's intimidating words, I sighed. Billy and his wife are kind to us, but even towards such a Billy, Dan was overbearing. However, the reason we called these siblings this time was because there was an important matter to discuss. The dinner party started, and Dan, who was eating in a grumpy manner, spoke up.
Hey, Dad, since you called us here, you must have some business, right? Spit it out. Indeed.
My husband looked at me, so I gave a small nod.
The truth is, it has been found that I have lung cancer.
Billy and his wife showed genuinely surprised expressions, but the eldest son and his wife's facial expressions didn't change much.
Dad, cancer? What's the current situation? I'm going to be hospitalized starting next week.
But they told me the cancer has spread all over my body, and I've got about 6 months left. That can't be.
Well, Dad's old anyway.
Dan muttered as if it was someone else's business. Rebecca chimed in. Well, you can't beat age, right? My uncle quickly passed away from stomach cancer, too. Her thoughtless words irritated me, and I couldn't help but raise my voice.
Would you two just stop it? Catherine, it's fine.
But the father calmed me down and began to speak quietly, looking at his children.
I want you guys to look after your mother after I'm gone. Of course, Dad. We'll take care of Mom, so don't worry.
Yes, please think about your own health, father-in-law. The second son and his wife answered firmly, but the eldest son and his wife were both playing with their cell phones, not seeming to listen to the father's words at all. After finishing their meal, everyone started to leave. Since the eldest son and his wife left quickly, I went outside to see off the second son and his wife.
Mom, I know it's tough, but hang in there.
We will also help, of course. Please let us know anything. Thank you, Billy, Anne. With such conversation, I saw the second son and his wife off. My husband preferred palliative care over surgery and chemotherapy, so he was admitted to a hospice the following week. I started visiting the hospice almost every day, and the second son and his wife would drive me and help take care of him. However, no matter how much I called, the eldest son and his wife never visited. Then, about 5 months later, my husband's condition worsened, and I called the eldest son and his wife, telling them this might be the end. They appeared reluctantly. However, Dan neither held his hand nor said a word to him. Instead, they only gawked at my frail husband as if he were some repulsive sight.
We've shown our faces. Isn't that enough?
We have things to take care of, so we'll be going now. The elder couple left the hospital room abruptly, not even 10 minutes after their arrival. As soon as they left the room, I noticed Rebecca had gotten her jacket. I quickly rushed after them. As I approached the staircase leading to the hallway, I saw them slowly descending the stairs. The two were so engrossed in their conversation that they didn't notice me.
It really seems like Dad's time is coming, huh?
Hey, what's going to happen to the inheritance once father-in-law is gone? Dan smiled at Rebecca's question.
Dad was just a regular employee, but Mom and the rest have been living pretty comfortably lately, haven't they? Maybe they've been playing the stock market or something. We could probably expect a decent inheritance, haha.
Oh, I can't wait. I've been wanting to go on an overseas trip. I also want a designer handbag.
All we can do now is wait for things to wrap up, haha.
I teared up listening to their conversation. I couldn't possibly tell my husband about this. Unable to confront them, I silently returned to the hospital room. 2 weeks later, he passed away. I kept for a long time by his side, but Billy and his wife were there, comforting me. Thanks to their support, I was able to hold it together, and the funeral went without a hitch. As soon as the funeral was over and only family remained, Dan, unable to contain his impatience, brought up the topic.
About Dad's inheritance.
What the hell, Dan? We just had the funeral today. Billy immediately reprimanded him, but Dan only glared back.
You, the second son, just shut up.
With a sigh, I spoke up. We'll arrange a meeting to discuss the inheritance next week. For today, please, just go home. At these words, the elder couple grinned, then promptly left. Then, the following week, the cheerful elder couple and the serious younger couple arrived at our home for the inheritance meeting. I told the two couples in front of me. First off, I should mention that your father's inheritance amounts to about $30,000.
What?
As I broke the news, Dan looked flabbergasted. I'd like to split this, as per legal inheritance shares, with me taking half and each of you getting a quarter.
Wait, hold on. Are you sure there's only $30,000?
In response to my matter-of-fact tone, Dan persisted. I passed him a thick envelope. All the documents are in here. Please check them. After looking through the documents, Dan and Rebecca's faces contorted in frustration.
Damn, Dad was really strapped, huh?
So we're only getting $7,500 each? That's too little. If it's this low, give us the house too. At the clearly dissatisfied couple, Billy responded in an angry tone.
Our mother's still living in that house. Don't care. It's because you wasted money on renovations that we're left with nothing.
That's right. If the inheritance is this small, give us the house too.
I calmly told the irritated couple.
This house was painstakingly renovated by your father so we could live here in our old age. I won't just hand it over. I'll keep it as long as I live.
What? It's not fair for you to keep everything to yourself.
Dan glared at me with a fury that seemed as if he was about to lunge at me.
Dan, cool it.
Billy restrained Dan. Your father was worried about me till the end. You might not understand it, Dan. Billy started speaking softly while looking at me, who was still stirred up.
Mom, we're going to renounce our inheritance. You should take our part too. Dad would rest easy knowing that.
Anne, his wife, nodded beside him. Billy, there's no need to worry. As I said that, Dan and Rebecca interjected again.
If they don't want it, give their part to us.
Yes, we'll gladly take it.
That's impossible. Mom's living on her pension. It's tough. We who are working even a little should be supporting her.
Billy sincerely scolded his older brother and his wife, but his words didn't seem to affect them at all.
When you say support, just because she's only got her pension doesn't mean we can just give our money away.
Exactly. Or perhaps mother-in-law was planning to siphon off our money from the beginning. The older couple looked at me with an expression as if they had just chewed on a bitter bug. Their eyes were not the kind one should direct at a parent.
Stop behaving like a parasite. It's a nuisance.
Old ladies living on pensions should keep out of everything except for weddings and funerals. Just stay quiet.
Hey, stop it now.
Billy scolded them, but I had my head down and was clenching my fists. Not only did they wish for my husband's death, but they also complained about the inheritance and even called me a parasite? I wondered where I had gone wrong in raising him. Tears welled up in my eyes with regret, but I couldn't lose my composure here. I gathered my feelings and said very calmly to Dan and Rebecca, I understand what you're saying. Let's sever our ties. When I said that, the older couple looked surprised for a moment, but quickly broke into a smirk.
Really? That's the best news I've heard.
Does this mean we don't have to deal with the old lady anymore? Lucky! As Dan and Rebecca hurried to leave, they sarcastically called out to Billy and his wife.
So there you have it. You guys look after the old lady.
Good luck taking care of the parasite.
As the couple stormed out, Billy and his wife rushed over to me. Mom, are you okay? They're just too awful.
Mother-in-law, we are always by your side. Please don't be upset. I was still looking down, but I raised my face and looked straight at the two of them. Billy, Anne, I have something to tell you. A few months later, while I was relaxing at home, Dan and Rebecca appeared with Billy. What's going on? We've severed our ties, haven't we?
Hey, old lady, we need to talk.
Indeed. Come on in. The eldest son and his wife, shouting at the entrance, their faces flushed red. From the side, Billy spoke with an apologetic tone.
Sorry, Mom. I was asked about the house, and I couldn't help but tell them.
That's fine. For now, everyone please come in. I let them into the house. The moment they were led into the living room, the eldest couple began to raise their voices.
What do you mean you're giving the house to Bill?
Exactly. You're disregarding us, the eldest couple. What's that all about? While looking at the two of them, I spoke in a calm and composed manner. Billy said he would maintain the house and preserve your father's memories. That's why I decided to leave it to him.
What? What do you mean?
Dan stared at me, taken aback. Billy and his wife Anne have been a great support to me. It's only natural. I smiled warmly at the apologetic-looking younger couple.
Thank you, Mom.
We're not here to hear that. You said you'd take over the house yourself, didn't you? After taking a quick glance at the eldest daughter-in-law, who looked like she was about to froth at the mouth, I explained. I thought I'd hand it over to someone who would respect your father and my wishes. Besides, I've started getting some rental income.
What? What is this?
Seeing my surprised eldest son, I let out a sigh and continued matter-of-factly. Remember how last year your grandfather passed away? Billy attended the funeral, but you couldn't because you were out of town, remember?
That was...
Your grandfather was a landlord who owned several buildings and apartments. Finally, the inheritance has been settled and I've started receiving rental income. The eldest couple's faces looked as if they had been hit by a bolt from the blue. We never heard anything about that. I never mentioned it.
Hey, about that rental income. How much are we talking about?
Well, it's about $3 million a year. So it's easy for me to give one of the houses to my adorable son and his wife. And then Dan and Rebecca, the eldest couple, sprang to their feet energetically.
Wait, hold on a minute. If Billy and his wife get some, then we should.
Why should I split my assets with someone who called me a parasite? Wasn't it you who told me to stay away?
Well, that's...
If you're going to call me a parasite, then please don't leech off me. At my sharp words, Dan and Rebecca began to stutter in response. I glared at them both and pointed to the door. All right, the conversation is over. Please go home now.
Wait, hold on. Mom, please listen to me.
Dan approached me flustered and suddenly clung to my arm. I looked at him with a cold gaze. You have no right to call me Mom. Please, you can give us some of the house and money too. We're struggling. The eldest daughter-in-law pleaded loudly. I looked at them and spoke. Huh? Struggling? What do you mean? Dan then started to explain hesitantly.
We thought we'd get Dad's inheritance and lived a bit too luxuriously, and well, we kind of got into debt.
I forcefully shook off Dan's arm. I'm disgusted. I didn't think you could be this stupid. This is the bed you've made, so you need to lie in it.
Mom!
That's just too cruel. I had the final say to the upset face of the eldest couple. From now on, I'll transfer my assets to Billy while I'm still alive. I won't give a penny to you who cut ties with me. Please never bother us again. Billy stood up to the crestfallen eldest couple.
If you understand, then go home quickly. Don't come near Mom or us ever again.
Billy showed the deflated two out the door. He was rubbing my back, which was still breathing heavily. After that, the eldest couple apparently ended up going bankrupt after getting into debt to repay their existing debt. From their rundown apartment, it said you could hear Dan and Rebecca arguing night after night. For them, who couldn't manage the simple act of cherishing their family, a decent future probably isn't in the cards. As for me, since I passed the house on to Billy, I bought and moved into an apartment nearby that comes with caregiving services. Billy and his wife often come by to visit, and they've recently had an adorable baby. I want to continue building a good relationship with Billy's family and cherish each and every day.